Welcome, Stefan, to Metal Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Abaddon Incarnate, this new album, the Wretched Swarmon, and more things related to the metal world. And starting with a common question: how have you been during these crazy times? We are living the ending of the pandemic. Europe started a war in Europe. So then, well, who knows what happened next couple of years? Alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, the machines takes the power. So really crazy times.
You got to live for the moment, man. You got to live for the moment. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You got to
Yes.
do everything you want to do. You got to do it today. Don't wait. Don't
Yeah.
wait. Don't wait for something to fuck it up for you. I mean, the pandemic was such a problem, because we couldn't do anything, any activity. It was very difficult, and then we had plans to tour Ukraine and Russia this year, but then of course that's fucked up. So yeah, shit keeps happening, but you just have to keep going. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, well, I think the next question is a common one too, because the Wretched Sermon is 8 years, well, has 8 years of difference from Pessimist. So why the band delay to 8 years to release a new album? And perhaps this pandemic has to do with because to has more things into the studio, working hard, because many bands around the world has many times during these 2 years, during the last years, to record, to produce, to etc. etc.
I mean, we took such a long time. Bill, the guitar player, he's had two children, two babies.
Okay.
So the band just went slow anyway. So I continued to tour with some new members, just session guys. And then we decided that, we want the real band out there. So we decided to take a year off just to let him get the children are like 2-3 years old. So he just wants to get them into school, and then we start again. And of course, when this happened, then the pandemic came, and that's 2 years of nothing. So, but we worked at home rather than working together, rehearsing. We wrote stuff at home and shared it online, and we wrote the album that way. But yeah, it has taken an awful long time, really. I'm surprised it's 8 years, but the time just flies now when you get older. The years
Yeah.
just fly by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a question that I wanted to ask is because you start the band you start with Olan and Bill, because you are start the band in 1994. So how have you been during these times? All more than so I think at 30 years, because are usually the band starts not in the official time when you see in the media. The band starts 2 or 3 years before the official statement, or in 1994. So perhaps the band has more than 30 years now to the existence. So how have you the road, the record, the friendship along Olan, Bill, and you?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Bill since I was 12, 13. We went to school together. And we played in a band called Bereaved from 92, 91, 92, 93, 94. And
Well,
then we became Abaddon Incarnate when Olin joined Bereaved. So I know Olin a long time as well. We're quite close. We're like brothers, like family. We have arguments and fights, and then we have good times and we support each other as well. Also Arena and anybody in the band really, I'm really good friends with. So yeah, there's a lot of history. There's 30 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
more than 30 years. If you talk
yeah.
about period, it's more than 30 years. Whew.
91,
So
90.
okay,
Mm,
I saw along all your discography that the first album, The Last Supper, was released by Season of Mist. Then
mm.
Nadir was Sentinel Records. Then Dark Crusade by Extreme Music. Then continue with Metal Age Productions. And the previous one was Candlelight Records. And now you are Transcending Obscurity Records. So
Yeah.
why the band changed a lot of times with labels? Because you never stay with more than one
Mm.
album in one label.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to do a second album with Season of Mist at the start of our career, but we were quite young and we felt like we could do better. We didn't think we were getting the attention that we wanted. The Mayhem album came out directly after our album, and we just felt like we weren't looked after anymore. But in hindsight now, we didn't realize how everything works, so maybe it was a bad idea. But we left the label and we signed to an Irish label, Sentinel, who were very good. They did a really good job for Nadir. But for whatever reason, they weren't. I think one of the guys left the label, so the label weren't very active after that. So we had to look for another label, which brought us to Metal. No, not fucking third album. I can't even remember. Yeah, but you know, so it goes on. We had the problem. Either the label fell apart, dissolved, or we felt like we had to move on. Candlelight, for example, they got bought out by a large company in Germany, and a lot of the bands got dropped. Just got dropped. So we have had no communication for anybody in Candlelight since that happened, and I don't know if they owe us money or anything. It's just crazy. But it's just,
Okay.
it's not going to be a lot of money, so I don't really give a shit. But it's just interesting how there's just total silence, and they just have new people in the office, and I don't know, they must have just got a new computer, and we're not on that computer anymore.
Okay.
Shit like that happens, you know. But the Transcending Obscurity, we've signed for 2 records, so hopefully we can get another one out pretty quick. I want another one out within 2 years, so we're gonna work hard at that. Get some momentum.
Okay. Okay, well, talking about your sound since the first album to this last one, I did not want a biggest change because the Last Supper was more grindcore, more brutal at that time. But now you are more death metal stuff with the. I think you use the HM2 effect from the Swedish. Swedish. So why this change along the years was thinking, or perhaps was an evolution, a natural evolution in the band.
Sorry, I just have to show you my pedal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when we started with the band, we were listening to a lot of death metal, like Obituary, Entombed, you know, Morbid Angel, stuff like that. So, but we liked the blast beats of, you know, Terrorize and Napalm Deaths, Cryptopsy, that kind of stuff. So we were writing these death metal songs with blast beats. But the Last Supper, yeah, it was very, very. I would think it's more of a death metal album. There's like 9 or 10 songs on that. They're quite long and complicated. There is a lot of blast and a lot of chaos, which brings the grind part to it. But it was only going into Nadir when we just decided that, look, we need to simplify everything. We need to, like, 2 or 3 riffs on a song and just bap, 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 grind. So that's when we started to get, you know, a bit more focus on the grindcore. And we toured them. We toured with lots of grind bands in Czech Republic and Germany and things like that. So we just started to get into the idea of that. But we always have a, you know, passion for death metal. I do anyway. So that's why we always have these spooky solos and the HM2 and, you know, some of them are occult references in the lyrics and that. You know, it's not really a political grindcore band like most people would expect. It's kind of so
another big story in your career, talking about your discography, is the album Dark Crusade, because in this album I feel a presence, a lot of black metal stuff there. This is the first time that when I hear Abaddon Incarnate, I remember when this album came here, like promo when Extreme Music sent us to Metalator in 2014, and like a promo CD, and I hear that, and the change from the Last Supper to Nadir and the Dark Crusade is amazing because it's a different band, as you said. The album and the first album is more death grindcore stuff. Then the next one is grindcore, but Dark Crusade has more black metal stuff. And in some parts in the last album, in this Wretched sermon, I hear a little influence for this from the third album. So this change into your career, because I think Abaddon Incarnate is not, for me, doesn't have the same album every day. It has each records in different styles each day.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really put any reason to it. We just write what we like to play. You know, we go, oh, this is a nice riff. You know, what would sound cool with that? Let's do this. Okay. And that's how it ends up. It's not like, let's write a black metal song, let's write a grindcore song. It's so I think maybe it reflects what we were listening to at the time, which I can't even remember. But you know, this 2003, I think, like I said, we did have a new drummer on that one. We had a new drummer come in, so that changed the dynamic of everything really. It's interesting, you know. Yeah, but we used some. Yeah, we wrote some atmospheric. Some nice parts. I think that's where the atmosphere, the black metal kind of vibe comes from, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. Well, now talking about the past, because I love to ask this question. You did a tour here in Latin America 2011, and I think that tour was the last here. So what are you remember from your last tour here? Because at that time I played with two bands that opened your band, one in
Okay.
Cusco and another time in Juliaca. So
Yeah.
I played with two different bands at that time.
Awesome.
I traveled to with I think with the same bus with you, but in the other area. So that's crazy. That's a very small world to talk
What was the
with
name of the
you.
band?
Oh, well, the band at that time was Insanity in Juliaca.
Okay.
Insanity. And in Cusco was Otuco.
Yeah, I remember the Cusco show very well. It was outside an outdoor festival. I remember the moon in the sky above the stage. It was cool. People lighting fires in the audience. It was a really good night, and we had a crazy experience because that was the last show that we played. So we really enjoyed that one. And I've always wanted to play Cusco. Cusco's got a very romantic image in Europe. Because you got the Inca stuff, and so it's always somewhere. Oh wow, we're going to play Cusco. It's amazing. But yeah, that tour was 4 weeks long, for 4 or 5 weeks long, and we played so many shows. I remember the Juliaca one. That was getting near the end of the tour, and we were really tired. We were traveling so large distances, and I just remember being half asleep for most of it. Juliaca, that was one of the last few shows. Is that near Cusco?
No, 4 hours, 6 hours
4 hours.
from here. 6 hours from
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it was probably down on the last week of the tour anyway. Because we traveled all the way from Colombia, Ecuador, down to the south of Peru, down to the border with Chile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went all the way down there. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'd love to come back. It's just such a incredible expense for us to come over there. It costs something like 1,000 euros for plane flight. And we don't get paid much when we play the gigs, so it's a big investment, and also takes a lot of time. But yeah, I've been talking to the promoter who brought us over the last time, and he's interested in doing it again. So we just need to make that work really. So I want to return to Peru. I really do.
Okay, I hope so. I hope to see you again in live.
Yeah,
so,
be awesome.
Talking about now returning to this new album, The Wretched Sermon. So, for you, what is the biggest strength that this album has compared to your previous works in Abaddon Incarnate?
The biggest strength.
Strength, yeah.
Good, yeah. Okay, so I think what we've focused on a lot was the songwriting this time, because we did everything at home, like I said. So normally we write together in the rehearsal room and we drink some beer and bounce ideas off each other. But now we're writing at home individually, and I think we've put a lot more effort into the songwriting, the structure of the songs. So the songs are much more more well put together. And I think that is a strength. And also we did a lot of pre-production. So we recorded this stuff on our laptops. I record the guitar, then I send the file to the drummer. He records on at home with the drums, and we experimented with different sounds and different ideas. So there's a lot of pre-production went into it, and a lot of songwriting. So I think that's the strength of it. If you.
Okay. Well, now we are living in different times compared to the compared to the 80s, compared to the 90s, and compared to the first wave of the 2000s. So because now this new generation prefers to hear the bands with 1, 2, or maximum 3 songs in the digital platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Tidal, this kind of style. So for you, relating to this, which songs for you represent all concept for this new Wretched Spawn? Which songs for you, perhaps not the single that you released previous, perhaps it's a different song that in their capture all essence from this sermon, this Wretched Sermon?
So which song would I choose for a single? You say?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most of the songs are quite individual. I'm quite happy with this. It's not like, oh, we have 12 songs that sound the same. Each one has its own character, so it's quite a difficult question for me to answer. I mean, to pick a single, you want something short that gets people's attention, you know, that they don't get bored with. There's a philosophy about releasing a single. It's got to be 2 minutes. It's got to have X, Y, and Z. But I think, you know, some of the longer songs on the album, like Isolation and Decay, is 6 or 7 minutes long. I really like that song. You know, we put a lot of work into it. It was written over 3 years. You know, we wrote part and then come back a few months later, wrote another part, and then they all fit together. Lyrics, I love the lyrics. The whole way the whole thing just works. It's got, like, you know, crusts, black metal, death metal, grindcore, all the way through it. So that Isolation and Decay is probably my favorite song on the thing at the moment.
Hmm. Okay. So talking about again from your discography, well, perhaps you hear this one because the fans, the reviewers, then a lot of people think that the first 3 albums from the band are usually the best ones in their career, and the last ones is no, it's not. Perhaps you think like that because you have your preferred artists in metal, rock, jazz, etc., that you prefer the first albums to hear all the time. It depends on you. So, but it's a counterproductive thing according to this is that usually the last album is the best one as a cliche for the band. Perhaps do you think like that? Who knows? Or perhaps do you have another preferred one that is not the Last Supper, that is not Cascade, or perhaps this is not Wretched. Perhaps you prefer who knows, the Dark Crusade is your best work for you until today. Who knows?
No, for at the moment, I think this Wretched Sermon is my favorite. It's just we've done something really good here, and I'm quite proud of it. Blown myself away with it. Actually, I didn't think it was going to come out this good. To be fair, I mean, the Last Supper, of course, you've got fun memories of being like 17, 18-year-old kid playing this crazy music, but the musicianship is not so great. There's some fucking stupid lyrics on there, you know. And then you go on to Nadir. It was lots of great energy there, but some of the songs maybe we just a bit lazy. We just have 2 riffs, you know, just to do everything as fast as possible. Then there's issues with each album, but this one I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. I really am, and the reviews are coming in are fantastic. We've never got so many good reviews of any of our releases, so maybe it is true. Maybe this is the best one. We'll time will tell. Time will tell.
Okay. Well, as I said, when in the first question, we will talk about other matters into the metal world, because the metal world are formed with other kind of stuff that is not always the music. It represent with these new forms of hearing music, as I said in the previous question too. Why do you think the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? Why what needs to do the band to push or to encourage the listeners of all songs in an album?
What do we need to do to have impact compared to? You got to go out and play gigs. I think you got to tour. You got to just go out and tour. You got to get out and play as many shows as possible and go back to those places. Like, for example, you in Cusco, you remember us from 10 years ago, but if we come back every 5 years or something, we'd be much more, you know, we'd make much more of an impact to the local people there. So you really have to get out and gig, I think, you know. That's the problem. So
okay. And now how do you see now the biggest scene now the extreme music are? Because as you remember, in the 80s and 90s, the extreme music are different than now, and we have a lot of different new ways to do extreme music now. So how do you see these new bands? Do you have time to hear new bands, and which band recommends perhaps do you like from these 10 last years?
Well, like I listened to old stuff, you know. I listened to Kiss last night, lots of Kiss, and then Twisted Sister and heavy metal, like Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden. That's the kind of stuff I've listened to lately. Death metal is not really. I would listen to old classic albums like Clandestine or some Slowly We Rot or something like that, you know. I put something on it once a day, an old album, and then if I'm drinking beer, I just put some heavy metal on. You know, I check out new bands a lot, but there's just so many come in. You know, a new band will go check this MP3 out, whatever, and I listen and I go, yeah, that's cool, but then it's gone in one ear and out the other because I don't have the same excitable teenage brain anymore. Like, I just want to get every single release that comes out and file it away there and be knowledgeable and not passionate about it anymore. I think it's difficult when you get older, you know, to get excited about new stuff. I don't know if it's the same with you, but I find when you acquire your favorite bands when you're a teenager, early 20s, I think that sticks with you right until old age. I think it's very hard to get into new bands. I mean, some of the music that the 20-year-old kids listen to nowadays is just I have no idea what's going on there, man. I just feel like such an old asshole. I just it's just so strange because I'm just stuck in the death metal, thrash metal, grindcore, 80s, 90s, you know. That's the mentality I have. It's very difficult to get into 2022 bands.
Okay. Okay. Oh, we are very close to this interview, Steve. And one question that I wanted to ask you is about what are the future plans that the band has for this Wretched sermon? Perhaps videos. Well, we talk about a possible tour here in Latin America next year, or perhaps the next couple of years. Who knows? Or perhaps we have more European tours, North American tours. Who knows?
Yeah. So we're working on an animation video for one of the songs. We've got some other videos that are just, you know, shots of the studio and that. So there's 2 videos coming out. We will have some European gigs in December, and then we are hopefully going to hit some European festivals next summer, and we are looking into doing a big trip, for example, to South America, or we're also looking at Japan and Australia again. So we just have to find out which is the most feasible of all these things, because they're such a big commitment. But yeah, the plan anyway is to get these videos out and to tour, because we've been at home so much with this pandemic. I've played fuck all shows and I'm so pissed off. I need to get back on stage, man. I need to get back on the road, back on stage and do my thing, you know. That's the plan.
Okay. Oh, well, Stephen, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did. Really appreciate your time, and I really enjoyed this new album. Well, I hope someday we'll see you again to hear, or perhaps to hear in Peru, or perhaps another part in Latin America, or who knows. So perhaps we want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallerium followers.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really want to get back and see you guys again, because we had such an amazing time that 10 years ago, whenever it was, in Peru, Colombia, Ecuador. This is such an amazing place, amazing people, and I really want to get back on those long bus journeys again, and all those crazy parties, after parties, and to meet all the crazy bands, and it's just cool. Drink lots of rum. And have a look at your beautiful mountains and your cool underground bands and shit like that. So hopefully I want to see you again real soon. And it's really good to see you. Okay, because I was gonna ask about Cusco, because I was gonna say, hey, did you go to a show? And it turns out you played and Juliaca. So that's amazing, man. It's great to catch up with you again.